Hi everyone, welcome to today's visibility session. I'm Dina Behrman, PR expert, and today I'm joined by Sharn Khaira. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Who is a business and mindset mentor. So, we're talking about why being seen doesn't feel safe, even when you want success. And we're going to be talking about how to fix that. And Sharn has an incredibly inspiring story. So, she was born and raised on one of the roughest streets in her hometown, surrounded by drugs and prostitution. She spent over a decade living in her overdraft, carrying the weight of limitation and survival. And everything changed when she began the mindset and subconscious work that she now teaches to her clients. So she says that through deep inner reprogramming, identity work, and strategic action, she transformed her reality and she moved from financial instability to generating over £1 million in online sales as an Asian woman. So thank you so much for joining us, Sharn. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Dina. And that was such a wonderful introduction. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So let's start with this idea around success and visibility, which so many people as business owners say that they want and they know that they need, but when those opportunities sometimes appear, they actually find themselves shrinking back because I guess feeling, the idea of being visible can feel quite unsafe for people. So why is that, do you think?
Yeah, so obviously when it comes to, the actions we take in our business, how, our reality is programmed, it's programmed by our subconscious mind. 95% of, everything that we do is subconscious. And it's only actually 5% that is conscious. And this is why so many people struggle with they know what to do, but they don't actually do it because the
Yeah.
doing and the action comes from that 5%, which is the conscious mind. So the 95%, which is the subconscious, that's really like your thoughts, your belief system, your habits. It's even things like long-term memory. So it's actually connected to how you were programmed maybe as a child. So when you're in business, the subconscious doesn't care about your vision, your passion, what you want to do. It's hardwired for survival and safety. And if you have had, especially in those ages from 0 to 7 when you were a child, beliefs maybe around being seen, being too loud, taking too much space, and especially in my culture where we were told like girls just need to be quiet, girls don't need to be seen. And I know that's across culture.
Mm.
That then, if you don't work on that belief system, it will show up in your business. And that's why so many women sabotage themselves because the past floods them because they haven't done that deep inner work. So that's one of the reasons why people just self-sabotage, and it feels so scary to be visible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know from working with my clients, it's something that comes up all the time. And it's interesting because it comes up at every level as well. Because I
Yes.
work with people who are newer in business or more established in business. And there's that saying, new level, new devil. But I think the fear of visibility is there for so many people. And I feel like, especially women as well. And like you say, it's that thing about feeling like you're being too much, too loud, um, that idea of, yeah, girls should be seen and not heard. I think that is such a common thing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's so right that women do struggle with at all levels. And similar to you, I work with really established business owners, but new startups as well. And I think the other thing is when you are growing or scaling, a different story is always going to come up
Yeah. Yeah.
around visibility. And, often women who are really established in their business, and this is something that I speak from experience, then comes the fear of losing it all. Then
Mm.
comes the fear of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like everything's now changed. And then they potentially lose confidence and then like retreat. But again, it all just goes back to the subconscious programming, the beliefs that you hold about yourself,
Yeah.
and also how you view yourself and your self-image, which again, the subconscious mind, it can't outperform your self-image. So if you've got a very, a self-image where you think you are not confident, or you're not good enough, or you don't have that self-belief, in that battle of the conscious and the subconscious, the subconscious always wins.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like all those beliefs that are literally from childhood, and we're just holding on to those, and those are running the show.
Yeah.
So you've talked about your kind of background and the environment you grew up in. How do you think that shaped your relationship with visibility and success when you were first starting out in business?
Yeah, so when I first started I think we've known each other actually for years. I think we first connected when I used to do wedding, like luxury Asian wedding planning. I
Yeah.
used to have a wedding planning and events company. And when I first started out, I just remember, obviously there was no kind of Instagram or anything, it was all on Facebook. And I just remember thinking, if I put these posts out about promoting my business, people are going to think I'm desperate.
Mm.
I was so worried about like what ex-colleagues and my cousins thought.
Yeah.
And I used to think, oh my God, they're going to think I'm so desperate. Like my business isn't doing well. And I really like resisted, like in terms of the marketing. I just didn't want to do it. I just felt like, oh my God, I'm being braggy. I'm being too much. Um, and then what actually happened was I saw a direct correlation. Obviously, it's changed a lot now, but back then it was more around how many times you post, like how visible you are, and still part of that is true now. Um, but then I just started seeing, results in my business,
Mm.
and it was that real action piece of course, doing the inner work, which I was doing back then, but it's action is also just so important, because you can do all the inner work in the world, but if you actually don't back it up with action and a process, nothing's going to work. And then I just started seeing amazing results, and that was the thing that actually like started like building my confidence. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, and then my cousins were coming to me and being like, oh my God, I want to go, I want to have a business, like, how are you
Yeah.
doing it?
Yeah. I love that.
But that was, yeah, and I had really poor self-belief back then as well, but that belief really built over time by doing that inner work and taking the action.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And I think, sometimes it is like JFDI, because people can kind of procrastinate on things. And like you say, doing the inner work is so important, but you've got to follow that with the action.
Yeah,
And that can be the scary part for people, actually doing the thing. Um,
yeah.
you've mentioned before about the idea around visibility can trigger guilt, especially when you're the first in your family or your community to build wealth or do something different. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I come from, like, my parents are factory workers, first generation immigrants in this
Mm.
country, very working class background. Obviously, I grew up on the roughest streets of my hometown, and it was, our upbringing was really, really difficult. And because it was really interesting actually, because my other family members, they did really well. So my dad's brothers and sisters, they're all like millionaires, right?
Mm.
Multi-millionaires. And we were always like the poor Khairas.
Mm.
And I think that, and it's something that I still have to work on, is that identity piece of that I'm allowed to have more than what I was given as a child.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're like the first, like for me, I'm the first generation wealth builder in my immediate direct family,
Yeah.
from my own business. I think it brings up a lot of like shame and guilt,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think it just inherently, like, you feel like, maybe you're not deserving, maybe you're not worthy. And people, and I know in the past I've just thought, oh, maybe I'm like leaving people behind, maybe I'm leaving my family behind.
Yeah.
And I really had to work on my money mindset, because I was someone, like you said, was constantly in her overdraft. And I just had to believe that I was worthy of money. I had to believe
Mm,
that I was worthy of charging premium rates. And it's definitely been a journey to get there. But I think the biggest belief I just had to work on there was like, I get to break this generational pattern,
yeah.
and that I am actually worthy of doing this. There's nothing wrong. You know, when men make loads of money, you know, we see this all the time. They're so praised, but when it's like when women do the same, it's like, oh, she's a bit braggy, she's a bit arrogant, she's a bit too
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really reprogramming yourself to be able to also hold that level of money as well. I think that's really important, because I've worked with a lot of women and just peers that I've seen in the industry as well. Like, they've earned so much money. You know, some of these people, you know, they've had such big businesses. And this is why I'm really passionate about creating wealth, because creating wealth versus having high income months is very, very different.
Yeah.
So with me, I've been able to hold money. You know, some of my peers might be having higher income pound months or years, but if you actually look at, you know, the overall wealth they're generated, it's like a lot less than it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that holding money is so important. And I don't think this gets talked about enough, especially with like high achieving women, especially because I think, again, there's that block and that fear of like, I just need to spend it. I can't hold it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really common actually. And I think it's such a good thing to differentiate that, because you do hear about people generating the income, but actually holding it is a whole different thing. And, being able to have the big income months, or the regular stability with your
Yeah.
income and hold on to it as well, is really, really important. And like you say, that also comes back to the subconscious and the mindset around it.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of thinking about, visibility and publicity and, getting yourself out there, I know that one of the things that comes up when I'm speaking to people about it sometimes is the fear of being trolled,
Yes.
and the fear of judgment, the fear of being criticized. What's your advice for people who are worried about having that fear of judgment, to the point that it stops them wanting to put themselves out there? Like, what's the best way to build that kind of emotional resilience?
Yeah, so this is really interesting, because in lockdown in 2020, I was trolled and bullied really badly, like
Really?
really badly. Like, there were posts, like lies spread about me in various different Facebook groups, and people from my community as well, actually. And I mean, it all got sorted through legals. Obviously, it was slander and defamation. There was, there was nothing there, actually. It was all just a
Mm,
bunch of lies. People then, when they get letters, quickly delete posts, and
yeah,
it's really serious, and it ended up costing them quite a lot of money as well. But what I would say is that, like, I think that it's really like a trade-off, and I genuinely think that, like, I've been asked this question so many times, and I actually think back. I was thinking the other day, actually, when I, like, in 2018, 2019, even like 2017, like, I just always used to have this like fear of judgment, like really badly. Like,
mm,
I just didn't go live. Like, there's so many other things that I could have done in my brand that I just didn't do, because I was just so petrified about what other people were going to think,
yeah,
if there were going to be like negative comments. And like, the advice I would give, like, to my younger self or someone watching this is like, I think that judgment and criticism is going to be something that we just have to get comfortable with.
yeah,
And I think that, to be honest, now it doesn't really happen to me. I don't know whether we're over that culture, because I think we went through that like in the pandemic where like people are getting called out. There was this very like call out culture. I remember a lot
Yeah,
of big influencers getting called out for
yeah.
like really stupid things.
Cancel culture as
Cancel
well.
culture,
Yeah,
that's it. Cancel,
yeah.
and I do think we've turned a tide now. I don't think we're in, so I don't see cancel culture as much now on Instagram, because
Mm,
people realize that actually it was just people that had nothing better to do, and
yeah,
it was all part of this kind of woke culture. I do believe in the right part of woke culture, but I think cancel culture has really died down. Obviously, if you're on something like TikTok, there's always like weird comments there. I think that's the
yeah.
only platform that I've seen. But I genuinely think that if you are really scared of judgment, one thing that I found really powerful was like just looking at my vision every
Yeah,
time I did
yeah.
something really scary. So having something like a vision board or your why or your mission statement written down, something really symbolic, which again, the subconscious mind loves visuals.
Mm,
It's a way to communicate with the subconscious mind. I found that like that was really powerful when I just thought to myself, okay, is my vision and my mission and why more important, or my own? And you know, with like comments, you can block people now,
yeah,
you can delete comments. It's quite easy if you don't want those people in your world.
yeah.
But I think that's like really, really key. And I think the other thing that I found really powerful was getting like leverage on my judgment. So I used to do this exercise where I'd say, okay, but if I was just, I used to journal on, if I was in the same place in a year's time, just not going live, not doing the post, not being seen and being
Mm,
visible, where would I be?
yeah,
And when you actually journal on it and get leverage on your judgment, it's quite scary, because then you can amplify it and be like, oh my God, if I don't do this now, this is going to have an impact in like 1 year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time.
yeah,
And like time just passes.
yeah,
So I just think taking small action is just so important. And I think for the nervous system, especially, like, you know, I've just wrapped up a really massive event in London. It had like 180 people there or something crazy, like completely
amazing.
sold out. But there were so many moments, you know, when I just had to really put myself out there, and it was so scary. And but I do think on that other side of discomfort and taking that action, there's just so much
Yeah.
magic there.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And I think, you know, often from a PR perspective, I'll speak to people who are really scared about the idea of kind of online trolls and things like that. And I think that, like you say, it's not something that happens all the time
No.
anyway. I mean, it's pretty rare to get, you know, and I'll say to clients, you never have to read the comments anyway if you're in an online publication or whatever. But it, you know, it is rare, I think, to get those kind of negative comments. And obviously it does happen to some people depending on what they're talking about and if it's something that's quite, you know, controversial or whatever. But coming back to your why, I think really, really helps, because sometimes we get caught up in, you know, feeling like we have to do all these things and be visible. And it's like, okay, well, why are we doing it? Like, ultimately,
Yeah.
why are we doing it? And we all have, you know, these missions to help people and to reach more people. And I think just really focusing on that is so helpful, because when you know that your desire to spread your message or your mission or whatever is bigger than your fear, then you just have to think of it as this thing that you just have to deal with,
Yeah.
and you know that it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And also, Dina, if you think about, you know, like the biggest people that are doing the most impactful work, like I look at people like, I don't know, Jay Shetty or Stephen Bartlett. Like, I don't know why men come to my mind, but they're getting trolled 24/7.
Yeah, and they don't care. Yeah,
And obviously they've probably got big teams and then no one sees it. But I also think it is a trade-off, like as you get bigger, as you're, and you know, naturally then, you know, especially for me, when I got trolled in 2020, all of that just came from other people's insecurities.
yeah,
And that was
yeah.
the sad bit, because my business was doing really well. Predominantly, these people are in the wedding industry. Obviously, their industries had closed down, and it was coming
Mm,
from this place of like hatred and nastiness.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you do get negative comments, yes, you can always like delete them and block people. But I just think that it is kind of part of the game as well, as you
Yeah.
get bigger and you get more
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah. I think, and that's the other thing. It's like, you're kind of doing something right, aren't you? If people
Yeah.
are bothered enough to make those comments. So then, in terms of feeling confident to put yourself out there and be visible, do you think that you need to work on confidence first so that you can be visible, or do you think that you can develop your confidence from being more visible?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think I'm in both camps. So, just like a recent example, obviously, I delivered my talk at my event, and I hadn't, just because I've had a really, really rough year last year. We had like a few family deaths and lots going on. And I hadn't delivered like a talk to such a big audience. It'd been 2 years since my last big event. It was
Mm,
2024. And to really build my confidence up for my talk, I was literally like in my study practicing it for like 2 to 3 weeks.
yeah,
And it wasn't like 24/7, but it was, I do a practice run every day.
yeah,
And that really built my confidence up.
mm,
I think I think they say competence breeds confidence.
yeah,
And I just think, and they have this other quote as well, which I love. I think it's when preparation meets opportunity. I think that there's so much merit in preparing,
yeah,
in being prepared, being organized. So when I got onto that stage, because I'd done it so many times, it was literally like second nature. I kept thinking, oh, I might have brain fog, because I had a few health stuff last year, but it actually was my best talk to date. And I got really amazing feedback, but that only happened because I kept practicing. And I do think that, like, whenever you're going to do something really big in your business or become really visible, it's very normal to feel nervous.
yeah,
It's very normal to feel like I'm not ready yet. The amount of times when I was like, my talk, if I could just do it in a month's time, I'd be ready. But
yeah,
it's just an illusion. And I really am a big believer in doing messy action.
yeah,
And I think that, like, you can really build up your confidence just through, I think for me, what's worked really well, and for my clients as well, is like just throwing yourself in the deep end. One of my clients, she was on like a client panel of ours at the event, and she was so nervous, but she did it. And I think it's like putting yourself in those situations where you do feel so uncomfortable that you're like, oh, but like, what's the worst that can happen? No one's gonna
yeah.
die.
Yeah, which is such a good reminder, isn't it? Because I think the things like public speaking is one of the biggest fears for people, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
you literally feel like you might die, and it's like,
Yeah.
what is the worst that can happen? And I think it's true about the messy action and not needing to wait until things are perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the perfect time. It is about just being as prepared as you can be for it.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to the version of you who was living in her overdraft and afraid to be seen? What would you want to tell her now with the knowledge that you have?
That's such an interesting question. I think it's really about, personally for me, and my journey has been mastering that inner game.
Mm,
That's been just so important for me. And what I would say is, I think especially in my culture, perfectionism comes up a lot,
yeah,
and being perfect. And I would just say you don't need to be perfect. You are worthy just as you are, especially in this kind of culture that we're living in right now, where there's with women especially, there's such a big pressure on women right now to look good and have everything highly edited. And I would just say that, to my younger self back then, that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has
yeah,
to be done.
yeah,
And I think the key thing is like learning as you go along. I think a lot of
yeah,
people are so scared because they think they're going to get something wrong. And especially in my business last year, we experimented a lot because obviously business, like the online space has changed so much in the last few years.
Yeah.
And for us, it was just messy experimenting. Like, and it turned out really well. We had such an incredible year. But yeah, I would say it comes down to messy action, not being perfect, doing the inner work, and just having belief in yourself, you
Yeah.
know? I just think so many women worry about not being good enough, not being worthy, but actually, like, you're born, therefore you are worthy. You're like 1 in a trillion chance of you
Yeah.
being here. So I think it's those things that I would say to my younger self, and just not worry as much about things, you know, like my mum is quite a big worrier and I used to be quite a big worrier. And I just think like you've just got to enjoy it, and you've just got to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So if anyone's watching this and they feel like, they know they want to get visible, but they're still feeling a bit fearful about it, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so I think that again, it will come back to that why and that mission. I
Yeah.
think that's so important. I think even connecting with that on a daily basis
Mm,
is really, really important. So I think like really getting clear on your vision and where you want to go, I think that's going to be really important. I also think that like, you know, if you want to become visible, it doesn't have to be this like big thing. Obviously, you can work towards that. I work with a lot of clients who are so scared to just even do a Instagram story face to face. And I always say to them, okay, like, how can we just build this up, like, build this muscle and build this habit? So it might be that you want to go live on your Instagram or something like LinkedIn here, but actually, like, you just need to start with your stories because you can just edit them. And then it's like building that muscle.
yeah,
It
baby.
really is. It's baby steps. And I think sometimes there's definitely merit in like we said before, just going in the deep end. But I think for people that are really worried about visibility, I think it's about building it up and almost having like you could have like a visibility checklist. You know,
Mm,
what does like good, great, amazing look like for you this week? And just having a real think about like, what does that look like? Does that look like a LinkedIn live? Does that look like face-to-face stories? Does that look like showing up at networking events? Because again, that is also a visibility piece that can feel really
yeah.
scary for people as well. So I think really defining that and just keep connecting with your mission and your why and your vision. And I think that will like propel you forward.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, like you say, there are so many different ways to be visible as well. And it's
Yeah.
about looking at like what works for you, what feels good, what's doable, and then you can kind of build on it and do more and more.
Yeah.
Um, so this has been so enlightening today. So lovely to find out more about you and all of your thoughts around visibility. If people want to know more about the work that you do, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram quite a bit. I'm sharn.khaira.mentor. I'm actually going to be delving into LinkedIn soon. So I have got a profile, but I just need to build on that. I also have a podcast where we talk all things subconscious, strategy, and business, which is She Who Becomes. And I've also got a website, which is afeccollective.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing all your wisdom with us. And I will catch up with you very soon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dina. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, amazing. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.